Hello, everyone, and welcome to FPC NFL Sunday on a Thursday. That's right. We are here to preview Thursday Night Football. And, folks, you're going to have to bear with me because I lost my screen. I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I assume that we are live here on Full Press NFL on Twitter. And as you can see on the screen, you have myself and Braden here. We're here to break down the Cardinals and Packers. So, Braden, how you doing on this fine Thursday evening?
Doing pretty good. We got a really exciting game tonight. Some big names out, but still looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned some big names. Obviously, right off the bat, you think Devonte Adams, and of course, J.J. Watt, who is now presumably done for the season. And look, Braden, I hate to say it, but who didn't expect this when he signed with the Cardinals? That J.J. Watt. I think if you were going to ask folks, would you put money on him? Finishing the season healthy? I don't know many people that would, and I don't know. Yet again, another season unfortunately ended with injury. So that's definitely going to be a loss for the Cardinals. Not a devastating loss because again, they are a very deep team. But I think the prospect of having him and Chandler Jones at the same time wreaking havoc on opposing offensive lines obviously isn't going to happen this time around. So definitely a big loss for the Cardinals. Do you think it makes a big impact tonight? Because this is a game they could have definitely used the duo of Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt.
Yeah, I think so. Just because watching a little bit back of the Packers last week, I thought Washington had some of their best pass rush reps against the right side of the Green Bay offensive line. So yeah, not having that duo tonight, I think that is going to be big. Just because Rodgers, we know he can kind of work and escape the pocket pretty well and navigate. So yeah, I think tonight it is a big deal. And you're talking not just one injury, four basically injuries in his shoulder for Watt. So that's going to be, if there was any hope of him returning late in the season, that's going to be even tougher now since it is labrum, tricep, and the full shoulder there.
Yeah, and obviously it's such a crucial part to what he does on the field. I mean, using a lot of that upper body
Yeah.
strength to obviously put pressure on quarterbacks and opposing offensive line. And then of course on the flip side, Devonte Adams, one of three receivers not to suit up for the Packers tonight. Obviously, he was in COVID protocols, and given the fact that it was a Thursday night game, it was a very slim chance that he was going to be able to be on the field for tonight when the news broke on Monday. So, look, this was going to be a tough matchup with or without Devonte Adams. Obviously, Devonte Adams comes into the season with, well, that's not correct. Well, actually, no, maybe it is. Was it 52 receptions for 744 yards? Yeah, okay. And then I was reading the wrong thing. I was reading Aaron Jones' stat line. I was like, that's not correct. But no, 52 receptions, 744 yards receiving. Obviously, anyone can make an argument that he is one of the, at worst, three best receivers in the league. I think a lot of people argue that he's number one, and you're not going to get too much of a disagreement on my behalf. But this is going to be a big loss for the Packers. I don't know necessarily, and we're going to get into this a little bit more detail here in a minute, but my just initial impression is I don't know if this is going to make necessarily a big impact on the outcome of this game. What it would have been with him in there. So, anyways, Thursday Night Football. So far this season, we've had a lot of great matchups on prime time. So this is, if anyone's excited for football, this is going to be the night to get excited for it because you have the 7-0 Cardinals versus 6-1 Packers, and they are among a logjam of NFC teams that have some pretty good records. This part almost halfway through the season. So obviously the Cowboys are also with only one loss at 5-1. The Packers 6-1, already mentioned that. Of course, the defending Super Bowl champion Buccaneers are at 6-1. The Cardinals are at 7-0, and the Los Angeles Rams are at 6-1 as well. So also in the NFC West, another one-loss team. So I'll ask you, Braden, because I think this is a pretty interesting question, an interesting discussion. Is right now, who is the best team of that group? Are you siding with, by default, the Super Bowl champions, or has there been another team that has probably emerged a little bit ahead of them?
Yeah, it's really tough because I think of just Tampa Bay. They're winning kind of as defending Super Bowl champions should, by like 3 scores or more almost every game. I think the tough thing though between them and Arizona is Arizona was already a good offense, but I think they're even more multiple now. I mean, last year you still had Larry Fitzgerald sitting in spots and not running routes past 7 yards, and now I mean Rondale Moore and all these guys are just as dangerous as Hopkins and Christian Kirk. So I don't know. It's tough. I think I got to go Arizona just because I think their defense is playing a little bit better right now. That was a big thing that got Tampa Bay the Super Bowl win. Of course, was how they brought pressure on Patrick Mahomes and obviously that secondary last year was making a lot of takeaways. So I think just because Arizona's defense is making a little more of an impact, I think I got to go with them. They're first in points allowed right now and fourth in yards allowed. So definitely not a group that I expected to be very good this year, but they've surprised me for sure.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's hard to argue against that. I mean, first of all, I mean, they haven't lost a game yet, so
Right.
that certainly weighs heavily in their favor. But like you said, I think it's more or less the balance. I think they're the most balanced team of that group. I think Green Bay, uh, kind of like the Buccaneers, can play good defensively, but whether it's injury or just whatever, I mean they just haven't played well the entire time. And look, for the Bucks, good news for them is they're starting to get a little bit healthier. So you would presume
Right.
that that defense is going to start to play a little bit better as the season goes along. But for them, they're in good shape because they're just going to lean on the arm of Tom Brady. Now, is their running game okay? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's better than it was a year ago, but it's still
Right.
not a great unit. So again, if push comes to shove, if anything happens to Tom, or if whatever, the Bucks could be in trouble because they can't lean. I don't think they can right now, at least, lean on their defense. Whereas, if the Cardinals' offense struggles, that's a team that can win defensively and offensively. Um,
Right.
so yeah, so I mean, I'll probably agree with you, but I mean, it's going to be tough because you have a good mix of teams in that group, and I don't think any one of those teams that we mentioned are in the would be considered a fraudulent team, because I think they're all legitimate
Right.
Super Bowl contenders and certainly legitimate NFC Championship contenders. Um, I've been talking a lot today. I'm trying to get back into the rhythm after being on vacation, sort of. I was working during vacation, but I was not home for the last couple weeks, so I'm kind of I'm kind of working through that. So yeah, so this game obviously is going to have a huge impact on potentially have a huge impact on that number one seed, and that's really the most important thing moving forward, because as we know, you're only getting one bye week, and that goes to the
Right.
number one seed. So it's going to be very important for those five teams that I mentioned that are going to be fighting for that. So, moving into this game, obviously, this is kind of the segue that we wanted to kind of discuss and bring into focus what should be a really good matchup. Now, I said when we kind of started to mention this game that I don't know if Devonte Adams' absence is going to mean much ultimately in the scheme of things. I think obviously his absence is going to make things more difficult for the Packers within the game, but I don't know if they would have won this game with or without him, is what I'm trying to say. And that I think speaks more so towards the Cardinals, because I think they're just playing at such a high level, again, on both sides of the ball. And I'm not quite sure that this Green Bay Packers defense is necessarily capable of handling Kyler Murray, because I don't know what the exact number was, but I seem to recall Taylor Heineke doing some damage against this Packers defense, especially on its
Mm.
legs. And if there's one quarterback in this league that you don't want, well, maybe he's one of two, speaking of Lamar Jackson, but Kyler Murray can do some damage with his legs, and I think that's not going to bode well for the Packers in this game. What's your initial impression, and are you kind of leaning the way I'm leaning right now, just as we first look at this game?
Yeah, I think so. I think just from the Packers defensive side of things, I mean, just the fact they're playing Jalen Smith and Whitney Merciless as much as they are already, given how little they've been in the building this year, that speaks volumes. And And I mean, Jair Alexander missing him at corners big, obviously in a game like this, but the rest of the secondary just has been very unnoticeable. Safeties, Darnell Savage and Adrian Amos have certainly kind of fallen back to earth. So yeah, I think in a game like this tonight, it's a game I think where the Cardinals can kind of I don't want to say play safe or loose, but I think they can kind of stick to attacking one area of the field, and I think it could work pretty easily for them tonight.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's it's certainly gonna maybe make a huge difference as to how close this game ultimately is. But you're never going to rule out a team that has Aaron Rodgers under center. But it's not just Devonte Adams for them. Obviously, when Adams was out in the past, they were 6-0, but there's always guys that stepped up for him, always guys that made plays, guys like Alan Lazard, who, as an unvaccinated player, was most certainly out as a close contact when news broke of that. And of course, MVS will also not be suiting up as well. So look, the Packers are going to be out without arguably their, three of their top four receivers, and a lot is going to be relied on Randall Cobb in this game. And I just don't know if that's, I mean, maybe this is, 3-4 years ago, that's not a bad thing. But right now, I mean, that's tough going up against a Cardinals defense that is, allowing 16.3 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty darn good in this era of the NFL.
Yeah, and it's some other guys I think on the offense that have kind of failed to get going as much as they were last year. Robert Tonyan I think had 8 touchdowns last year. He's barely even made an impact, and I think there's been some games that teams have done a really good job for the most part after the last or the first few weeks of the season. Kind of taking away Aaron Jones. So if he's taken away, I think again tonight, like he has been lately, it's going to be a long night for the Green Bay offense.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if the the amount of weapons that the Packers have left on offense is going to be good enough to. I mean, again, just match wits with what the Cardinals, can bring out. And look, there was a slim chance that maybe DeAndre Hopkins missed this matchup. He will not. So that could have maybe closed the gap a little bit for the Packers, but ultimately, to me, it's not a great matchup for them. In general, and it's hard to go against the Cardinals team who, like you, I didn't expect this. Certainly didn't expect this from them. I didn't think they were going to be a bad team by no account, but I didn't think that they were going to be the last undefeated team and really, playing some really good football. Like I said, I mean, when you only give up 16.3 points per game, that's really good. And on the flip side, as you can see on the screen, they're averaging 32.1 points per game, and I think that's second or third in the NFL behind, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we will talk about here in just a minute. Because I'm going to ask you, at 7-0, and Kyler Murray, you can see up on the screen, 2,000 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Obviously, he has 3 touchdowns on the ground as well. I think a lot of people would consider him certainly in this mid-season MVP conversation with guys like Tom Brady. I happen to think that those two are probably right now the 2 leading candidates. Kyler Murray having a great statistical start to a season, but also leading this Cardinals team to a 7-0 start, and of course Tom Brady at 44. Not only leading in age, but leading in touchdowns, leading in yards, and so on and so forth. So who do you give the edge to right now? Are those your top 2 candidates right now, or can you make a case for maybe Derrick Henry, a third quarterback, or right now it's a 2-man race between those 2 at the moment?
I think I would agree with you that those are the top 2. If I had to throw in a different quarterback, right, I think personally I'd have to throw in Dak Prescott, but I don't think he's quite to the same level right now. It's really interesting, right? Just with MVP every year, it's like what's the story going to be? And you talk about with Brady, it's the touchdowns and the yards, and I think with his age factored in, that's going to be heavily viewed as the MVP votes. But I think with Kyler, it's a situation. I think just Cliff Kingsbury and every narrative surrounding him as well. Those are going to be the interesting stories to follow. I think personally for me, I still have to lean Tom slightly though, just because I think right now there's just been a little bit less mistakes. I mean, Kyler hasn't made many, but I think there's a different kind of consistency and different kind of rate that I think Tom's playing at right now, just by a hair.
Yeah, and look, you're certainly not gonna get any argument from me on that, because I do agree with you, but that's not to say that that's not diminishing what Kyler's doing. But I think you put it well. There's just a I don't know. There's just a different, just a very high level of consistency that Brady is playing with right now, no matter what. I mean, he's been without Rob Gronkowski for the last 4, 5 games. And Antonio
Right.
Brown's been in and out of the lineup.
Mm.
There's been running backs in and out of the lineup. So, and it just doesn't matter. I mean, he goes out, he throws 4 touchdowns and a half, and then they just cruise to a victory. I mean, that's happened a couple
Yeah.
times this season. I think there's 4 games where he's thrown at least 4 touchdowns in this in a game, and I think 2 of those times he did that in just the first half. So yeah, I'm gonna have to lean obviously Brady as well. It's no coincidence that we're talking about guys that have a lot of wins already this season, because that's ultimately what their play and MVP like play correlates to is wins.
Right.
You can have a lot of great stats in certain categories, but if you're not playing, and if this doesn't make sense, I don't really have a better way to explain it. But if you're not playing MVP caliber, then that's not translating to wins. It doesn't matter what else is around you. If you're playing at an MVP level, you're going to be, as a quarterback especially, you're going to be winning games for your team. So before we get into, let's say, our official picks, although I think most people can probably kind of guess and see where we're leaning with this. We got a few prop bets here. We haven't been able to do this. I haven't been on it the last couple weeks, so we weren't able to kind of implement these from our friends at Play Pickup. So we're going to do that right now, assuming I can pull up the screen and continue not to stall. There we go. Okay, here we go. And our first one right up on the screen. Will Aaron Jones score a touchdown versus the Cardinals? I'll let you start, Braden.
I'm actually going to go yes. I guess, of course, is the option I should say. Just because I don't think there's going to be maybe as many options to throw to, and I could honestly, this defense right now, the way they're playing, I think a big run could be kind of pulled off. So maybe on a long score, I'll say of course.
All right. Well, I'm going to go no on this one.
Mm.
Like I said, I think it's going to play a lot into what I ultimately pick, but just for the sake of this show too, as well, maybe I'll go the opposite on this one, and one of us will have bragging rights on Sunday when we reconvene for our real FPC NFL Sunday show. So that brings us to just over under 52.5 points will be scored in this game. I'm going to say, I'm looking at it as like maybe like a 28-21 game.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I'm going to end up taking the under on this one, even though it seems like this game would be ripe for a high scoring game.
Yeah, I'm going to go under as well. I think there's going to be just maybe a lot of turnovers, I think, from Green Bay side of things too, that could play into that. So I kind of agree with you. I think on a short week, that's going to play a big factor. So I got the under as well.
All right. And last but not least, we talk about MVP candidates. We didn't mention Aaron Rodgers. He is certainly knocking on the door. He's right, maybe in that second tier, maybe just on the outside looking in. But for the sake of this discussion, which MVP candidate throws for more yards in this game, Aaron Rodgers or Kyler Murray?
Yeah, let's go Kyler on this one. I think it's not just like obviously having the deeper weapons tonight, but he's been hitting on a lot of big plays down the field. Feel like Aaron's not maybe hitting on as many of those, so I'm going to go Kyler.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to agree with you on that one, and add in the fact that on top of that, the absence of Devonte Adams just hurts. I mean, it's going to hurt anyone who
Yeah.
has Devonte Adams as their receiver. You're just going to have to make do with what you got, and that's going to be something that will be worth watching. I do think Kyler Murray's going to have a good game. The Green Bay defense isn't, incredibly strong or that good in general, so they're certainly susceptible to giving up some passing yards, and I think that's something that's going to happen tonight. So before we give our picks, I'm just going to ask you 2 questions. One, how can the Packers win? What must happen for them to win? And then the same question for the Cardinals. So start with the Packers, and then we'll go to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think with the Packers winning in this game, I think they just kind of have to play methodically offensively, limit Kyler's possessions, and I think defensively just eliminate the big plays. That's pretty much the only top two things I would say for the Packers. From the Cardinals side of things, I think their biggest key, honestly, is trying to just play balanced offensively. I think they obviously could take a lot of big shots early if they wanted to, but I think maybe play a little bit balanced and save those for later on in the night.
Yeah, I'll have to agree and say, like, look, I mean, this has to be an Aaron Rodgers legendary performance, maybe you know, doing it through both his arm and on timely runs on his part. So which in that sense is essentially what you're going to have to do for the Packers, because again, without his weapons around him, it's going to make it definitely difficult. And again, to the Cardinals, don't give him extra chances. There's no point to your point, play balanced, do what you do, and don't get overhyped and put yourself in a position. If they do that, which I think they will, I think they're going to win this game. So give me the score. I said 28-21. I think the Cardinals, maybe they start fresh, they start quick, get ahead, and then I think it's just sort of a march to the finish line where maybe Green Bay comes up just short in this game. But I think you get a pretty solid performance from Kyler Murray. I think he's going to outplay, not to his fault, but just based on what he has, I think he's going to end up outplaying and outperforming, at least on the stat sheet, Aaron Rodgers. And it's going to lead to a Cardinals victory. And they're going to be 8-0 and still chugging along. So agree or disagree? Cardinals win this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be 30-20 Cardinals. I guess if I had to throw a bold prediction in there tonight, we got two veteran kickers here. I think one of them's going to hit at least a 60-plus yard field goal tonight inside a stadium. So having a little bit of roof should help. So that's going to be a bold prediction that I'll throw in there as well. But yeah, 30-20 Cardinals. They stay perfect.
Oh, I like it. And Lions fans across the country cringed when they heard 60-plus yard field goal. And all right, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoy the game tonight. Like I said, I will be live tomorrow morning on FPC Radio Live 9 a.m. on at Full Press Radio on Twitter. And then, of course, join us Sunday for the real FPC NFL Sunday, where we preview all of Sunday's action right here on Full Press NFL on Twitter. So have a great night, folks, and we will see you then.